Hello everyone, Richard Edmonds here from Windows Phone Central, and today, as you can see, we've got the HTC 8S, or Windows Phone 8S by HTC. The device is a very good looking device. It's very nice, appealing feel and look to the design with the two-toned colour scheme, which is available in a number of varieties. So inside we've got a 1.5 GHz dual-core Snapdragon S4 CPU and a microSD card expansion slot, which is hidden under the cover right there, which we'll look at in a bit. The 4GB storage is a slight limitation, as one would imagine, which can limit you to the amount of apps that you can install compared if you get a 16GB or 32GB 8X or Lumia 920, a TVS or comparable model. But it's not a deal breaker, especially if you can manage your apps wisely and uninstall games or particularly large apps when you don't require them. And of course you've always got the Xbox Music subscription, which will save on space for your music to be stored in the cloud, so you can stream if your data allowance has the capabilities of doing that. As well as the 4GB storage, you've got 512MB of RAM, which is at the low end of the Windows Phone 8 chassis requirement. You've got the 4-inch Super LCD screen, which is actually quite a nice screen. The blacks won't be blacks, not as good as the Samsung's AMOLED, but HTC has always done a very good job with the LCD technology that they use. The only issue is that it is at a WVGA resolution, so you're not getting the full 720p goodness. Which isn't, again, it's not a deal breaker. If you would require a HD device, then you're going to have to splash out a bit more for either the flagship devices by the 3 manufacturers that are supporting the platform. If not, then it really is bearable. I mean, we've been using it on Windows Phone 7, so it's not a step back by any means. The camera-wise, we don't have a front-facing camera, which is a really big letdown for a Windows Phone 8 device, especially with Skype being so prominently supported by the platform now. But we do have a 5MP rear shooter, which has an f2.8 aperture and a 35mm lens. Again, the front-facing camera is a letdown, lack of, I should say, and the rear shooter isn't anything spectacular. You're not going to take any shots that could be entered into contests, but it is bearable, it is manageable. It's a typical smartphone camera, but again, if you require anything better, I would recommend obviously the Lumia 920 with its PureView technology. So powering the device, to make all the magic happen, is a 1700 mAh battery, which does last the day. We've done a number of tests through heavy usage and moderate usage, and it has lasted throughout the day, comparable to the other handsets. The 1700 will last you for the day. It's non-removable, so you can't purchase another unit and just slap the battery in when you're running low, but like any Windows Phone, you've got the battery saving feature, which should kick in should you require that extra length juice at the end of its life. So at the top of the device, which again is a very nice looking device, we really do like the path that HTC is going down at the moment with its designed for Windows Phone. At the top we have the 3.5mm headphone jack and the power button, which isn't as bad as the 8X. With the 8X we noticed that the power button at the top really was hard to grasp because it's a larger design, so your finger would take some getting used to get the top to get that power button. But with the 8S, because it's slightly smaller, it's really easy to reach and you can slap it on and off as you desire. So it's top of the device. On the side of the device we have the volume rocker and dedicated camera button. The bottom of the device we have the micro USB, which is centralized, and on the left it's completely bare. On the back we have, of course, the 5MP shooter, branding and Beats audio, as well as a speaker. The speaker doesn't have the extra amp as the 8X does. It does have Beat audio, but the extra amp is 8X only, unfortunately. but the sound quality of the device is very good. So as mentioned before, the device itself is two-toned colour. So you've got the navy blue, the light blue, well, lightish blue, as it's shown on the camera. It's actually quite dark at the bottom, as well as speaker grille. It's a very, very nice design. As we mentioned, the colours come in a variety, so it's black, white, red, orange, green, grey, and this one, which is the blue and navy. It's not glossy at all, and it's a nice change from the metallic feel that the company went for with its Titan and Radar range in the previous generation of devices. When we first looked at the devices when they were announced, it was said that they were copying Nokia. They do differentiate themselves from Nokia's Lumia line quite well, and well enough for people to take notice. And it's a very nice design, and it feels good as well, because it's a nice soft finish. It fits in the hand very nicely, and it's curved on the sides, so it naturally feels like it's ready to use, good to handle, and you're not going to drop it. As well as that, it's extremely light. It's only 113 grams, and like the 8X, you pick it up for the first time and you're almost throwing it through the air because you've just taken so much force to lift it off the ground. But it's not light enough so you don't think that you're not using a phone, or that they've somehow forgotten to slap in the battery, but it's light enough to be noticeable, and it's very nice. It's not a negative. So the screen, again, the quality isn't spectacular. It's not as good as the AMOLED by Samsung, or the IPS display that Nokia uses in the Lumia 920, but it's certainly usable. As well as that, we have the Gorilla Glass for protection of the screen, which we have seen in numerous tests that can withstand some serious destructive power, but take note that this screen can scratch easily when used in the pockets, even through tests which show that hammering a nail or something doesn't really affect the Gorilla Glass protected screens. The odd situation can arise where they do, so you just have to watch out for that. As well as being protected, the screen responsiveness is pretty good. We've had no issues with lag or anything else for that matter. All the apps launch very well. You'd expect it to be quite snappy with the dual core, of course, but the screen does help it along. So the software side of things, obviously HTC doesn't have a collection large enough like what Nokia has achieved. That said, they have got a number of apps, and some of them are pretty useful. So of course we've got the HTC Hub, which reveals stock news on latest weather reports, the connection setup to help you get migrating between connections, the flashlight, which is quite nice, and the photo enhancer, which is very nice, just to touch up your photos if needs be. And something else that we've noticed here is make more space. So it just literally just gives you a quick links, if you want to, if you can find it, to clear up space, which is very, very handy with the 4GB limit. Speaking of which, when you do actually get the device, if you are purchasing it, you will notice, if you go into the phone storage report, that you literally only have about 1GB free of internal storage after the software, the operating system itself, has loaded on it, and all the apps and things are stored on the flash storage, which is again, it's a slight problem if you are a sort of power user, but you do have the SD card slot for your photos, music, and everything else, so it's manageable. You can get by, but unfortunately you can't store your apps on the card, which is a bit of a shame, but you can of course understand why. But again, it's not a negativity of that device. But that being said, it's not a bad device. It's an affordable device, so you should look at the HTC 8S as exactly that. It's a cheap device that is to complement the 8X for those who can't simply afford it, or the carrier decides to go with the lower end hardware. Again, it's a mid-range device, but we'll consider it low-end for Windows Phone 8 standards, especially with the Lumia 820 featuring functionality like the wireless charging, has slightly more memory than the 4GB allowance we see here, and it's generally it just feels like it's slightly more powerful than the 8S, but we believe will be more aggressively priced, so we'll have to see how HTC responds with that. But overall, the 8S is a fantastic device. We have no issues with it, we've had no problems with it. The only real downside for me personally was the camera, which you can see in the review on Windows Phone Central. The shots were okay outside, and in low light was okay with it. But video recording was actually quite poor, as well as indoor shots with just standard home lighting was not as good as one hoped. But other than that, we would certainly choose a device. The only issue you might have is storage, but again, that it depends on your habits and how you use the marketplace or the Windows Phone store. So it's definitely for you if you're looking for an affordable phone. If not, we'd recommend looking at the ATS, the 8X or the Lumia 920, which are very nice Windows phones and the flagship from all three manufacturers. You can read up more on the HTC 8S on wpcentral.com, and that has been a quick overlook, but that isn't everything, so be sure to check out the review for more information. Thank you very much for watching, take care.